Now we will sew the lining together. If you did not do any pocket at all, then you will just skip the pocket steps but sew it the same way. Whether you did the divider or the zipper divider, at this point you sew it the same way. So you'll take your lining piece. Oh, and I forgot to mention, before I did this, before you do move on, if you're doing a drop-in lining, you'll want to sew across the top of both of your lining pieces with a 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance. Okay, so I'm going to take the bottom of my divider and center it on the bottom of the lining piece. I'm going to clip it in place. And I'm going to take my second lining side and I'm going to sandwich that zipper divider between these. And if you don't have any divider at all, you'll just sew these together at the bottom without the divider. Now we will trim across the bottom seam. Alright, this next step is a little tricky, especially if you have very thick fabric for your divider. So if you need a ruler to measure 1/2 inch, then use a ruler. But this bottom corner should be 1/2 inch from the bottom of this side. And then you'll sandwich it between the two sides of the lining. And then I have to really squish this fabric together. But this ends up with a very nice finish at the end. Okay, so I have this side pinned, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Lost my ruler. Okay, if you are doing the, if you will be turning your final purse through a gap, then you are going to sew all the way from the top down to the bottom. But this one is a drop-in lining, so I'm going to sew from this guide stitch line that I did before. I'm going to sew from there down to the bottom. And when I get to the start of the pocket, I like to go back over it to make sure it's really secure. And right here, it can be pretty thick. Just push things down. And I'll sew this side as well. Oops, and of course I sewed all the way from the top. I will fix that in a moment. I'm going to need to get out my seam ripper and fix this seam at the top. Okay, now it starts at the right spot. And I'm going to trim these seams. But I will not trim up here, so I will taper off. And trim the other side. And finally, this is the last step for the lining. We're going to put this part together just like we did for the exterior and sew across. If this is too thick for you, the last one that I did, I made with waterproof canvas, and it was so thick right here at the edge that I sewed it with a zipper foot, and it worked better that way. But this one with just cotton worked okay. And then I like to turn it over and sew from the other side too, right on top of my line. Then I will repeat that on the other side. And finally, trim it. If you're doing the drop-in lining, you are now done. If you are doing the, if you'll be turning it through a gap, then you can go ahead and turn your lining inside out, or sorry, right side out. So here's my lining, and even with the divider I can turn it right side out. I'll just be turning it on one side of the divider. So I cannot turn it fully right side out because of this divider, but I'll just do my best. And now I'm ready to sew the purse together.